So it started out with one person, believe it or not, who said, hey, I'm just going to create a space and try to convince as many people who are as crazy as me to come down and see what we can build together. That's our founder and team lead, CK. But over time, we've been evolving to now a community of more than 3,000 people. So these are a combination of entrepreneurs, or what we call founders. You have their teams, you have SMEs that they work with to make their dreams a reality. You have entrepreneur support organizations, you have enterprise partners, all of whom are convening around how do we help young people in Uganda to get started on their entrepreneurial pathway. And for us to also pick out a subset of those and say, hey, how do we help you build a world-class tech-enabled or tech venture?
So many hubs popping up, innovation taking its shape in Kampala, but there was no space for the creative industry to dream or to call home or to call a place to collaborate. So we decided to come up with a space. Fast forward, we built a home from 7 people to 150 people, a place where we can vent, where we can exchange ideas, where we can build partnerships and dream in terms of what's our contribution to the innovation sector from the design lens.
We've started a media innovation space that amplifies innovators. But I was also looking at how we can create opportunities for young journalists to showcase their talents, their skills, and maybe we use the platform to connect them to jobs.
And Motive was born very specifically for those who work within the creative and culture space to build an ecosystem that allows for businesses in that space to thrive, to grow, and to become pretty successful.
So we have 2 pathways for entry-level talent. If you're in the creative sector, we've got the Creative Business Academy. And if you're more into tech-enabled type concepts, we've got Foundations, which also appeals to SMEs. First and foremost is the talent side. How do we get you as the entrepreneur, you as the team behind the idea to be ready to take this on properly? We then move you on to an innovation pathway. This is where we ideate, it's where we co-create with the enterprise partners. It's really where we try to stretch our idea to find pathways to scale. From that perspective, we move on to an incubation pathway, having found one that has legs or could grow to perhaps an East African, an African, or an international brand. So we nurture that idea in a bit more detail. Thereafter, we expose you to investors. So once or if you pick investment at the pre-seed or seed level, it's at that stage that we now move a scale-up type journey with you. But essentially, we can walk a 2-week journey with you, a weekend journey through a hackathon, or we can walk all the way through 3 to 5 years with you, depending on how far your aspirations stretch.
Since we started with the creative industry, we found a big need to professionalize the industry. There's been a lot of professional training on that front, so brand positioning and things like that.
One of the things that Motive offers the creative entrepreneur is an opportunity to access tools to grow their businesses. And these tools are both hardcore tools and softcore tools. One of the things we've done with all the partners that have come in to run the spaces is to make sure that our tribe has access to them. So if they're running an event, we always attach 10 people onto that to be runners, to just understand how is it that you set up lighting for an event, how is it that you set up to learn those critical skills to make that happen. And that cuts across into the food space, into the fabric space, into the wood and metal space. So those are the hardcore tools. The softcore tools are things that are intangible, like the Creative Business Academy, because we understand that the business of creativity is not the standard way of running business.
We run an expo that identifies around 300 young journalists from, let's say, 15 universities. We engage them in a competition. From there, we identify the best 26 young journalists. And then we take them into a multimedia training for 6 months. Within that period, they will go through the foundation of what we think is new age journalism. Then after that, they go through a week of production, which will focus on both radio and TV production. And then we have a mentorship component.
The Embassy of the Netherlands was crazy enough to trust us that we could work around building a value chain for jackfruits, because there's a big need in Europe to transition from meat to a more like healthy lifestyle. So we came up with a program, and fast forward, we've developed a product which which is now used in the Netherlands as a meat supplement from jackfruit, provided here by a lot of female jackfruit growers.
There's a young lady, she runs a brand called Belle Deluxe, and Belle Deluxe joined one of our platforms, Omoleso, to sell her sleepwear. So when she joined Omoleso, her average sales were at about 240,000 a month. And now she can actually say that on average I get 12 million a month from the sales of my brand.
First of all, as an incubator in Uganda, in Africa, you are a startup yourself, trying to support startups, yeah? And that means that you are figuring out things as you support other people depending on you. So that has been truly hard. So the finance aspect, I think, is a cliche for everyone. We're so many players all fighting for the same deep pocket somewhere.
Our partners help us to support as best they can. We can't take in every startup, right? You find yourself having an opportunity where you can only take 5 people. You can only take 10, right? So it leaves a whole bunch of disgruntled or people who think that their idea is not good enough or whatever not.
By the support of the president, came up with the National ICT Support Program to support innovators. And we do this by putting out calls for innovators to respond based on the themes that we need them to address. So far we have had 4 calls out, and out of these 4 calls we have so far supported 95 innovators, and the number is still growing. And then we identify and shortlist who is going to be funded. Now, out of these innovations, some are incubated in our National Innovation Hub in Nakawa, and others have actually developed solutions that we are using as government. An example is the e-procurement system. That system was developed by Ugandan innovators through the innovation process. Government has supported innovation hubs that are housed in different universities, but also built its own innovation hub.
We've been here from 2013. It's an incubation hub that was set up by the NITA organization, the NITA authority, under the Ministry of ICT. And the main purpose for having this hub is to try and nurture BPO organizations or BPO businesses that are willing to set up in Uganda with some level of a jumpstart. So we are lucky to be one of the remaining incubatee with this building.
%51% of our country has internet connectivity. And we are, as government, we have prioritized rolling this out to the rest of the country. In the next 2 years, we shall be at about 80 or 90%. And you know that in order to thrive in this industry, you have to have internet connectivity. COVID-19 has shown us that this is the way to go, and we are encouraging investment in innovations. We've already gone into public-private partnerships with some individuals or entities that are interested. As we go to Dubai, this is what we are marketing as possible areas of collaboration that we can work on, or possible areas of investment that we can attract investment for, in order for us to build the right ecosystem for our innovators to operate.
As an entrepreneur, it's a lonely journey. So you have to be intentional to plug into existing systems. Just because you have a brilliant idea does not mean you're an island.
Find a big problem to solve. Now, capital is a constraint that will remain for the duration of your startup journey. So let's not focus on it. If we're building traction on this big problem, the capital will find us.
I mean, it's a cliche, but start. If you are interested in building anything, it's just start it.